Okay, guys, so we're back. I wanted to talk about callback functions, and we mentioned that before that there was this callback attribute, like for example, whenever we called hide earlier, not only could we define the speed of how quickly how slowly it hides an element, but we also have this callback parameter. And so, what does that do exactly? I want to just to kind of highlight. Why something like that would be useful. I want to show you that I've made some modifications to my page slightly here for my board shop. I've added these hide and show buttons to the top, okay? And basically, you click hide, it's going to hide all the snowboards. You click show, it's going to show all the snowboards. If you want to just see what that looks like, this is all I did. I added a div just below the snowboard header right here. Two buttons, one with an ID of hide boards, one with an ID of show boards, and then I've got a couple of jQuery calls here for hide boards. Whenever you click that, we're gonna hide the content, and we're gonna pop up an alert box that says, "Hey, where'd they go?" And then if you click show, it's going to show them and pop up an alert box that says, "Oh, there they are." All right, so let's see what happens the way that it's currently set up. If I hide it, I get my alert box before the elements are actually hidden. When I click OK, then they're hidden. Same thing happens with show. Oh, there they are, but they're not really there yet. So now when I click OK, then they show up. And the reason why that's happening is because JavaScript is trying to run this code as quickly as it can. So even though it does make this call here to when I click hide to hide the main content area, as soon as it makes that call, it will go ahead and call the alert here. And we don't want it to do that. We really want it to display this alert after main content.hide has completed, right? And so how are we going to do that? Well, callback functions are the answer. So like I said, for the hide function, we saw that there's this speed attribute that we're using, and then also the callback. If I use the callback, what callback does is it says, I want you to run this function after the this function is complete, right? So what we're going to do is add an additional parameter, whoops, and it's going to be a function. So we're just going to type in function, and we're going to say we want to run this function after we hide. And the function that we want to run is we want to run our alert. So I'm going to take this alert, I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to paste it right here inside the curly braces in my function. All right, so now let's see what happens if I run that. Now let me refresh my page. Now when I click hide, look, the hiding takes place, and at the end of the hide, then it runs my callback function, and which is my alert, and says, hey, where did they go? That's exactly what I would expect it to do. So let me just make this a little more readable. So my second parameter here is going to be my function. Remember, JavaScript doesn't care about spacing, so I like to kind of just put some new line characters in there and make this a little more readable so that we can see what's happening here. So when the hide boards button is clicked, all right, I'm going to own my main content element. I'm going to hide it at a speed of 2000 milliseconds. That's my first parameter for the hide function. And my second parameter is this callback function that I want to run after the hiding is complete, right? So we could do the same thing with show, to where we took this one here and whoops. We're going to add a second parameter to that. And that second parameter is going to be function, whoops, function. And the function that we're going to run is going to be this alert here that says, oh, there they are. So let's remove that. Always make sure that your curly braces and parentheses are closed in the appropriate places. So now if we hide it, it hides it. It gives me the little box that says, hey, where'd they go? When we show it, it reveals them. Then we get the pop-up that says, oh, there they are. All right, so that's how we would want it to work. That's the way callback functions work. So anytime you see in a particular method. We saw that not only in hide show, but in fade as well. There were optional parameters. You can define a speed as well as a callback function that runs at the end of that. That's what callback's all about. It's just you can define a function that runs at the end of, once that function is complete. It's basically saying call this function, call back to this function here after my function has completed. All right. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is chaining, right? So if we go to jQuery chaining, you can read through here and you can play around with the examples, but I just want to show you quickly what chaining allows you to do. Right now, if I want to click hide boards here and hide, let's say I want to first set the background color of the main content area. We'll just pick yellow since that's the same thing we did up here in our paragraph area. Let's say I want to set the background color to yellow, and then I want to hide it at a speed of 2,000 milliseconds. All right, how would I go about doing that? Well, the way that we know to do that right now is we would first, let me copy this just for time's sake. For the main content region, the first thing that we would do, I'll copy this since we're already doing it up here. We would set the background color to yellow, and then we would say hide it at 2,000 milliseconds. All right, so let's see what happens if I reload the page and do that. I click hide, there's my background color, and then it hides at 2,000 milliseconds. All right, we can do the same thing with show. We'll set the background color back to white. That's the first thing that we'll do. And then we'll show this guy. Reload it again, hide, sets the background color, and then show sets the background color to white, and then it shows those items that were there. All right. Pretty straightforward. What is chaining then in relation to that? All that chaining is chaining lets you, if you're running something on the same element, if you're making calls that you want to happen in succession after one another, you can save a little bit of space by just taking this hide, and instead of referencing writing a selector that selects that item again and then hides it, you can just chain this right onto the end of the previous call. So I can do .hide 2000. I can totally remove this line. And so now it just says for the main content element, once I select that, set the CSS to this, and then hide that element. So it's just going to do these things in succession. You've chained those function calls together. And I could do the same thing here for show. Just put a dot at the end of the CSS function call and add the show function call. So if we save that, and you want just so you'll know we're looking at new code, we'll set the background color to light blue instead of yellow, and instead of white, we'll set the background color to orange when we show it. All right. So let's reload that. Now when I hide it, light blue, it hides, and when I show, it comes back orange, right? And so that's how chaining works. You're just putting, if you're running code, if you're calling a function that's supposed to work on the same element, you can just chain those function calls together, just putting them one right after the other. All right, just saves you a little space. Not really changing anything as far as the way the code works. You could put them on two separate lines, but it's unnecessary since you can chain those function calls together. That's it for this week. I do want you to just read that section on under the jQuery effects portion of w3schools.com under their jQuery tutorial. And as always, let me know if you have any questions, guys. Thanks.